Hi, I'm Mel. I'm in my early 30s. I was in BOPO throughout my 20s, fat acceptance for about 2 years. And then I left because I realized that I cared about my health, basically, and didn't want to be 300 pounds.
My name's Elizabeth from the Mental Maze podcast. I was a part of the fat acceptance and body positivity movement for maybe 7 years. And I left because it felt like I was a part of a cult.
Hi, my name's Eleni McKnight, MMFT. You can find me at Eleni Writing on Instagram. I was in fat acceptance for about 5 years, and I ended up leaving because it made me sicker. It hurt me more, and I started to go down the same track as my father, who passed away in 2019 from organ failure brought on by heart disease and type 2 diabetes.
Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the Body Honesty Project. My name is Lydia, and today I have for you the first of 3 panel discussions with all of you. A few weeks ago, I put out a calling card on the community page asking people to submit their weight loss stories, whether you were a member of Fat Acceptance, were fat your whole life, or gained weight as an adult then had to lose weight later. I want to know your stories. Because rather than spending all of our time debunking and criticizing fat activists, I think it would be nice to hear from more people like you that have seen the light, made a change, and are now doing better. So, on to the discussion.
Thank you everyone for joining me today. This is the first panel discussion that I'm having with my audience. And today we are discussing the people that have left fat acceptance. So welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you on the channel today. And what we're going to do is we're going to run down a couple interview questions, and everyone's going to have 2 minutes to give their response. And then we're going to have a free form discussion at the end. So the first question is, what led you into fat acceptance?
So I actually got COVID and was listening to that You're Wrong About podcast. And then he's like, we got this maintenance phase podcast that talks about diet bunk. So I'm like, I am an educated person. I went and started listening to it. And then I was like, wow, yeah, the world really is against me. And, just got kind of down. And then it got so down that I just was listening to what they said. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that my doctor, does this and this and this. And it was just that's really what did it. And I ended up getting getting up to 280 pounds because I just started intuitive eating and, binge eating and stuff. And then I got so, I started getting pre-diabetic, and it just I was like, clearly it's the universe. And because I have gained this weight, that's why people don't like me. It's not that I'm being it's not that I'm being, a mean person. It's just that it's the world against me and all of this stuff. And then I got back into the gym once the gyms opened back up and really started just feeling better. And that's when I was like, no, it was me, not my body. That was the problem. And I guess that's really the long and short of my whole trajectory through fat acceptance. And I never really got Tumblr or TikTok bad, but I was on Tumblr back when This Is Thin Privilege was the fat acceptance thing. And so it was always a little bit there. And, my background is in fashion. So thinking people needed clothes was also part of it, I think.
Well, it was really a girlfriend of mine had started a Facebook page for body positivity, and it sort of spiraled after a few years into more of a fat acceptance space. But they would have parties and events with everybody there was plus sized. And I suppose, that it felt nice to be able to not feel bigger than everybody around me. And so I really got drawn into that. And I also this was also about the time when I first got introduced to Tess Holliday. And I was like, man, look, she's beautiful and she's huge and I'm huge, maybe that maybe this is an okay place to be. And I just sort of let myself get disillusioned by the idea that my weight wasn't affecting my health in any way.
Personally, I was struggling with binge restrict, and that was not an easy choice. But my therapist did try to neutralizing food and what it meant, tried to get me to eat regularly. And it would be a lot easier in my mind to just say, I can eat whatever I want and it's okay. And it's not my fault. Later on, I found out that's called an external locus of control, like blaming everything, making excuses, behavior. And I realized I was starting to feel worse. I really, really was. Tiredness was not going away. I started showing signs of type 2 diabetes. Just sheer exhaustion was just wearing me out. And I would go to doctor after doctor looking for an answer. And finally, it just dawned on me, like, yeah, when I eat a little bit better and treat myself better, I start to feel better. So that was a really rude awakening kind of for me. Yeah, for sure.
I might have done a video on the internal and external locus of control if you
I think you
remember.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love to actually teach that to my patients. So
Yeah. Describe the moment that made you decide to leave fat acceptance, starting with Mel.
So I think for me, it was just like, I kind of went over a little bit of my overarching trajectory, but I was feeling really bad. I was about to get, my PCOS was about to become diabetes. And I was like, the gym had finally reopened because my doctor was like, hey, you've put on 50 pounds in 2 months. I'm actually worried. And I was trying to explain to her, I was like, it's not that, I was like, look, so I got COVID and now I don't have an appetite. And she thought that I was trying to say that I have this magical metabolism that gains weight when I don't eat. But I was like, I don't have an appetite. So then when I finally do get hungry, I binge. And she's like, look into a dietitian. So we got that stopped. And then they keep talking about, thin privilege. I was like, this thin privilege thing sounds pretty great. I'm going to go get me some of that no matter how much it costs. And I got a personal trainer who was like really empathetic and was just like, yeah, don't worry about the weight loss, but we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to eat this many calories. And then I came to her and I was like, hey, that whole fat acceptance thing was BS, isn't it? And she's like, yeah, it kind of is. So that was the moment where I was like, well, I've been lied to, and just kind of was like peace and healed out of the room.
Like I said, I was on it. It had kind of started through Facebook, so I spent a lot of time in those pages. When you're scrolling and doing mindless things, and there was a woman that got on talking about how her doctor wanted her to lose weight because she was pre-diabetic and there were other health issues coming down the line, and she wanted to know how to do that without being fat phobic. And I thought it was to ask. So, I put in my 2 cents and I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to eat your body in a healthy way or following your doctor's orders. I mean, we all want to be healthy at the end of the day. I think that's a positive thing to do for your body. And I thought that would be taken well because it seems very, I can't think of the word, common sense. And, but instead I got really attacked for it. And people were saying all kinds of awful things to me about how I was being fat phobic and she didn't have to lose weight and all of the problems with doctors. And I was like, whoa, this is something different. This is not what I thought it was. And I don't think this is something I want to be a part of anymore. I actually didn't start my weight loss journey at that time. It was about 2 years later before I did that.
Okay, well, it wasn't one particular moment. It was just over several years, I started to see how maybe it's just the attitude around fat that's affecting your health. I didn't really agree with that. But over the years, I remember, like Mel, I went through PCOS and I saw a PCOS specialist, and he said, I think this is an endocrine problem too, because it looks like you are developing diabetes. Your A1C is really high. And that may be part of why you're feeling really tired and worn out, is because your blood sugar is running really, really high. And he put me on the keto diet, and all of a sudden I got my energy back. It was like magic. And I realized like how much food really does affect how your body runs and how you feel. And I started losing weight, and I was like, maybe I can control this, and I don't need to fall back on these excuses anymore. I also watched a lot of horrible things happen to my father. And he did have diabetes and heart disease. And I also noticed the way that he ate and the way he treated his body too. And that was really shocking and really painful to really witness.
So the first two questions were about what led you into fat acceptance, and when was the moment that you left. But I kind of want to know from all of you the feelings about leaving. Like, were you afraid? Were you afraid of being ostracized by, like, were you afraid of turning your back on that community? Was it a difficult move for you to do?
For me, on some level, it was like, I think it was more the ego of accepting that I had been wrong was the hard part. And like, I kind of viewed it as the people who, like, you know, I was like, well, I'm not going to be one of those fat phobic ex-fat people. So that helped to like assuage any like anxiety. And also a lot of my friends weren't into fat acceptance. Even one of my friends who's like 450 pounds at his biggest, he like, a lot of them weren't. So it was like, I didn't have that anxiety, but I had like some anxiety about like kind of the admitting you're wrong part. And I still think everybody deserves love. And, you know, I think that clothing sizes, you know, they're better now than they were whenever I was a teenager. And I think that it was kind of bunk, like sizes that they were, especially because that's what I went to school for, was fashion. But it also makes sense, the sizes that they choose. And if there's one thing people can understand about clothes, it's that after a certain point, I can't make a pattern that fits every human body. Like at some point, you just got to come to me and ask for a custom pattern.
Yeah, so I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I was uncomfortable leaving, just because it was a very social community for me, not only online, but we did in-person events. So I was losing a lot of people that I spent a lot of time with. But I also knew that those are not the people that I wanted in my life, so that for personal growth opportunity. Because it wasn't just the fat acceptance that they would buy into, and like they're a victim of genetics and they're a victim of doctors and everything else. They felt like they were a victim to everything around them. And I didn't like that sentiment. And that's just not what I saw for my life moving forward. But I did lose a lot of people that I had cared about by removing myself from that community.
Yeah. For me, I did have some friends in the fat acceptance realm, but I very slowly left that mindset. And I think that helped a lot with transitioning out of it, because I do have an extremely anxious attachment. So it was just hard for me to, like when people were like, I can't help that I'm overweight. It's not my fault. I don't eat any more than anybody else, but I'm 300 pounds.
I bought into that real hard.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it is my PCOS and my endometriosis that's doing this.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, the laws of thermodynamics don't apply to us. Yeah.
Amen.
And PCOS is wild because it's rife with misinformation. And like, you know, I got diagnosed 17 years ago, and like back then they called it PCOD, and they thought that it was only like you have too much progesterone or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And now they're like, it's actually closer to just having lifelong pre-diabetes. So if you follow something like Like if I eat too many processed foods, it's like my face turns red like a tomato, and I feel like I have a bowling ball in my stomach. But if I stop eating those, it feels like I just hemorrhage that bowling ball. I can lose 10 pounds in a week, and my face goes to like not looking sunburned.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I switched to clean eating as well. I try to stay really far away from processed foods. I got all the way up to 360 pounds,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
and I've lost 178 so far. I have a
Okay.
lot of extra skin that I'm not into, but I
Mhm.
like it better than it being filled with fat. So we'll
Yes.
take
Yeah.
it.
Good job. Proud of you.
But even 2 weeks after switching into like a whole food diet, all of my arthritis problems were gone. I have
Mhm.
no pain in my spine and my hips and my legs. All of the areas that I was going to like physical therapy for to try to relieve my pain and taking muscle relaxers and all this other stuff. As soon as I switched my diet up, I'm telling you, like 2 weeks later, got out of bed and I cried. I cried and I cried because was able to get out of bed without, I don't know if you guys had arthritis, but it's really stiff. Everything just feels really stiff when you're moving.
Yeah.
And so I had gotten out of bed and I didn't have any of that. I was able to just get up and get out of bed. I went downstairs, I cried. I was telling my husband I was so excited.
Oh,
That's amazing.
And I've not stopped since.
Yeah.
good job.
So, Mel, tell me, how has your life been different since leaving Fat Acceptance? Has it made it better? Has it made it harder? How has life been treating you now?
So it's actually kind of funny because we just had one of those like maelstrom level like things. Basically our house burned down. Everybody's fine, but like that made it harder. But overall, as far as like just general life, it's been a lot better, honestly. Part of it I think is mostly because I'm not holding on to like that anger and stuff that Fat Acceptance seems to kind of, at least for me, kind of inspired, and that I notice in a lot of like actual Fat Acceptance creators. But beyond that, I took accountability for, stuff that I do, the accept the things you cannot change, change the things you can thing. And I like, put in the work at the gym, feel good because like I got all these big muscles now. Thanks PCOS, gives you high T, so it's like I can build this without even trying. um, and I also got my first long-term relationship, and it's been really good. So overall, it's like, life is still life. Bad things can happen to you, but I am more like resilient as a person, and that I think is the big change that has been super helpful.
That's a wonderful thing to hear. We don't, that's one of my biggest criticisms of Fat Acceptance is that where has the resiliency gone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like honestly, it's like I have a lot of compassion because I was there, you know. I don't think I was ever Fat Sapphic Bro or Splotch Maker levels of, down the rabbit hole, but I certainly was like, people hate Lizzo because of her size. And it's like, if I like, some of these people are just like, if I have to think about a diet, then I will have a mental breakdown. And it's like, you're probably more fine than you realize.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been really good. When I left there, I did lose some of the people that I was spending a lot of my time with. But that was a good thing. And I started really putting my energy into finding communities of people that were maybe more inspiring to me, and personal growth and things like that. Those types of communities. I actually started my full journey in the middle of a day. I was watching a YouTube video. It was the What If mentality that David Goggins did. And I was like, shit, yeah, what if I can do that? And I just never stopped. And it's changed my whole life. I mean, it's changed my entire life. Not only just my body and the way that I'm perceived by other people, but it's also changed. So my whole family was overweight. I have a husband, I have 4 daughters. They're now all on a weight loss journey with me. I mean, it's been a stunning revelation. It's been an amazing change.
That's great to hear that your experience didn't just affect you, but your whole family. That's great.
Right?
Well, first off, it helped me take more responsibility for my feelings and the way that I treated others. It's really enriched a lot of my relationships. It's helped me to see how my actions can sometimes be really codependent and unhealthy towards others. I don't necessarily believe everything in The Secret, but I do believe in this saying, if you hand your happiness over to other people to make, they're always going to do it wrong. So you have to create your own happiness. And that was a big thing I was doing in fat acceptance. Was I was sitting there saying, if everybody else would just do this, my life would be great. And my life was not great when I was doing that. So it's been really exciting to see how your life can get better and improve overall. Things like my depression have gone down. A lot of the emotional meltdowns I used to have stopped. Actually, it kind of gave me the kick in the butt, lit a fire under my butt to go back to school. And that's when I went and got my master's in marriage and family therapy. So I really pushed myself to better my life because I was not happy with where I was. And all of that is because I took responsibility for myself, including my weight and my body. So that was very exciting for me. And I did it even though a lot of my family was like, we don't know if you can do this. And I graduated. I'm very proud of this. I graduated from Trevecca Nazarene in July of 2021 with a 3.6 GPA.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm very proud of that.
It must feel so empowering to take accountability for yourself after a long time of not.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, and realizing how much power I have. Like I created a really shit life when I was sitting there going, it's everybody else's fault. But when I realized like I created that, I thought, how much good stuff can I create?
Right.
In my life?
Exactly. Okay, on to the next question. Mel, are there parts of fat acceptance and the fat acceptance community that you miss?
I think honestly the biggest thing I actually miss is like you had talked about how fat privilege is being able to eat whatever you want. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I wish I could still eat 5,000 calories in one meal, which is something I was doing when I was, on the gaining for 2 months straight. But it's like, I kind of miss that. I think on some level, I miss the whole feeling like I was in on something that nobody else was type of thing, where it's like, I know this secret that doctors just don't want you to know, or whatever it was. And I think on some level, it's like, it's harder to like go to the gym and do the things that are right for you. And so it's like, sometimes I'm like, just sitting around doing, whatever I want to do would be pretty nice. But, I'd mentioned the fire, and I had to stop I had to go a month without the gym, and I found that I hated that. And like, sometimes I look at just how like people like put like the ways that people will talk whenever they're putting out videos, and I'm just like, you're so like I feel so bad for them, like, and just like the denial. And it's like any small things that I might miss are like outweighed by how I see that they're suffering.
Right. So I guess you're not going to go back anytime soon.
I'm not really thinking about it. It's not on my 5-year plan.
Right.
There's not really anything I miss about it, especially not at this point in time. I will say it did make me feel good for a time in my life where I wasn't feeling good about myself. And I think that's sort of the draw to it. in the first place. Is, you know, you're a lot of people that are overweight have issues with self-esteem and feeling valid and all of those things. And you would go into these groups and everybody would tell you how beautiful you are, and everybody would tell you, you know, how great you were. And then you would go and eat tons of Oreos with them and it would be fine and everything was good. But then you went into the real world and you're like, oh, everything's still the same. And I'm still, you know, nothing's changed except for I just keep gaining weight, and nothing else in my life is getting better other than these brief moments where I'm eating something and enjoying that, or somebody's telling me, oh, you look so nice in whatever it is that you post your picture of, you know. But other than that, I'm actually so glad I'm out of that, and that's no longer where I get my validation. They're delayed gratification and discipline feels so much better than any short-term form of validation.
Right. That's wise words. Thanks.
I feel like it was a lot easier in my life if I could just wallow in all the bad things that were happening to me. And I kind of felt like that's a little bit of what I was doing in fat acceptance. And it was kind of okayed. Like, oh my God, I'm so sad this guy doesn't like me back. Well, you know, I mean, there's just so much you can accept or go along with, obviously. Fat acceptance, I kind of felt like up to a point it's a little bit needed when you're first getting out of an eating disorder, but there's a point that's only like the first part in healing your relationship with food and your body, is taking away all of those negative thoughts about what food means, the values that it has to you. So getting to that point where you realize food is just a tool, an object necessarily to fuel your body and to keep it running, and it's not necessarily a drug.
Right.
At this point, I don't necessarily miss that aspect of that acceptance of self-medicating with food, getting my validation from others. I can validate myself in so many ways better now that I'm not treating food as a drug. Right. In an addiction. It definitely was an addiction for me. It's still something I struggle with, obviously. So I'm learning to take accountability for that. And it feels good. It does. It does. I do have good days and bad days though. So
we all do.
Yes.
So I have a couple questions that I was thinking about, and I'm just gonna throw them out and we can just discuss randomly. So, did fat acceptance actually help your confidence in any way? Like when they talk about body positivity, by being a part of it, I honestly want to know, did it help you feel beautiful? Did it help you feel more confident?
Yes. Yes, I would say it absolutely made me feel more confident, but not all the time. It wasn't like a sustained confidence. So it was just like, to be honest, it was just like my food eating problem, where I could eat and then I would have that short-term sort of rush of, oh yeah, that was good, that felt great. And then, you know, your body feels like shit later because you've not put any nutrients into it. You just put garbage in there. And the same thing happened with body positivity, where in the short term, I felt like confident, or when I was with those people, I would feel confident. But then anytime that I was at work or in my real life, I had zero confidence. So it was sort of like an illusion, or delusion, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. And I feel so different from that now, where now sometimes when I look in the mirror, I'll be honest, I do not feel like I've lost as much weight as I have. I do not feel great. I have a lot of extra skin. Things feel weird. But when I'm out and I'm living my life, I feel effing great. I feel so good.
Is the confidence that you have now different than the type of confidence that you had with fat acceptance?
Yeah, I would say yes. My confidence now is in my ability to achieve my goals. It's in my ability to, if I need to be disciplined about something, whether it's money, my job, my weight, my health, whatever it is, it's not a scary thought. I can do that. I can definitely do that. And so it's sort of a confidence of just knowing that I have the control over my life. It's not outside influences. It's just me. And it's the choices that I make every day that give me the confidence now.
Mhm. Anyone else? Did fat acceptance give you something?
For me, actually, fat acceptance hurt my confidence because so people always talk about like getting bullied for being fat as a kid. And I always make a joke that I was way too weird for that to be the thing that people focused on. Because, I was a fat kid, but never once did I get made fun of for being fat. And maybe it was just like I was the same level of fat as like what was normal, or
Right.
maybe it was just like whatever. But I didn't know I was fat for the longest time, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And it's not just like I was like, oh, I'm like a size 8. It was like, no, I was like I was like 200 pounds when I was in 7th grade. And like 5'5" or 5'6". I'm 5'9" now. But like I was, actually obese on the BMI whenever I was a little kid because I didn't know that I was fat. And then I came across like, this is thin privilege and all of that stuff whenever I was in college. And I was like, oh, I am. And, a couple of people said, oh yeah, no, you are fat. And it was like, oh, so that means that's why everybody hates me or whatever I was feeling. It had nothing to do with the fact that I was depressed and just didn't go out and hang out with people. No, everybody hates me because I'm fat. It's, and I can't do anything about that. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a persecution complex for a while.
Right.
And so obviously putting that aside, way more confident now. And it's just like, you know what? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, not even just looks wise, but just personality wise or as a person you want to hang out with. But that's true of everybody. And a ton of people do like me. And I have a lot of positive traits. So it's like, it kind of got me leaving it got me to focus less on my body.
Right.
That's good. Well, I'm a little bit of both of your answers, Mel and Elizabeth. Like Elizabeth, the first time I really got into the fat acceptance area, I started to really gain confidence because I had never had body confidence ever in my life. I always thought that I had the most disgusting, ugly body, and it did help at first. But when I started to mention, like, maybe cutting back on the carbs and sugar, that's when people are going, no, don't do that. You don't need to do that. But in the end, it made me feel better. So then it kind of pulled away at my confidence. And that's when I was like, maybe I should branch out and make other friends that actually think that you can do a healthy weight loss. Even if you have been eating disordered in the past, you can learn to eat healthy. No more of this binge restrict of like trying to starve all day till like the afternoon, and all of a sudden you just binge eat like 3,000-4,000 calories in an afternoon. Yeah, that's not healthy. And I realized through the new friends I made outside of fat acceptance, if I make the effort to eat breakfast and lunch and maybe a healthy snack between, I have a better chance of sticking to a calorie goal and being able to control my weight and maintain it and lower it. And I feel like it just realized like that's how you should really approach food.
What is your advice to your friends, family, or even people you don't know that you see on the internet that are currently indoctrinated into fat acceptance? Like, what do you want to say to those people to help get them out?
Can I just start off with like a therapist answer is you are a person that is worth love and acceptance, even if you do eat too much. So it's okay if you want to admit, I am eating a little bit more than I probably need, but that doesn't make me a bad person. That's what I would tell somebody.
I think I would say that honestly, it's like, yeah, fat acceptance tells you stuff like, oh, you shouldn't have to work out and, all of this stuff. Well, if you go out, if you take your, the money you make every week and you spend it all on, whatever wasteful spending you have. Let's say you buy a lot of like Pokemon cards or something or Legos. It's like that's not good financial sense. It's like, yeah, it's great. Maybe you shouldn't have to, take like, 30 minutes a day to go work out, but that's the world we live in. And you'll feel better if you get that workout in and you eat a little bit more fiber and drink some more water. And just in like if weight loss is the reason why and it's been a struggle for you, all you have to do is just follow the My Healthy Plate and find like just that one thing that you eat that you really don't like. Like mine was muffins. First thing I did for weight loss was I stopped eating muffins because I was eating them out of habit and
Right.
not because I liked them. And it's just like you just make small changes and you'll feel better. Like, and maybe, the first diet you try, maybe keto's not for you. Like it worked for Eleni. I hate eating fats and proteins. So it's like it was horrible for me.
Right.
But like I do a variation of the Mediterranean and I feel way better.
Yeah, I would say you're not stuck there. You don't, I always had this idea in my head that I was just a fat person, that I would forever be a fat person and that I couldn't be something different. And it really was a mindset shift of, yeah, no, I think I could. I think I could be different. And, you know, oh my gosh, I'm like 7 pounds away now from my healthy BMI. And
Oh, wow.
it's unbelievable. It's
Mhm.
unbelievable that I don't really think about food anymore, except for have I gotten in enough calories for the day? Because everything I eat is whole food. I eat meat,
Mhm.
fruit, vegetables, and sometimes grain. And so I never really have to think about what I'm eating because I always know whether it's like approved for me or not. I don't really count calories. It's just been consistently coming off, and my body seems to know how to better deal with the food that I eat. And you can absolutely change. You can absolutely have a healthy body. You can absolutely have a healthy mind. And you
Mhm.
just have to take those actions to do that.
I'd like to thank Mel, Elizabeth, and Eleni for participating in my Panel 1 discussion, and there will be a Panel 2 and Panel 3 coming soon. If you would like to be a part of one of these panels, send me a message at Mom That Dances on Instagram, and I'll add you to the group threads. I really enjoyed this conversation because as a YouTuber, the only engagement I get with my audience otherwise is in the comments, and this was a great opportunity to meet some of you face to face, or screen to screen. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot from all of my guests. And instead of concluding with my signature outro, I'm going to use a clip from one of my guests because I just think it's a perfect way to close out this video.
In fat acceptance, we're like, fat people can do anything. They are wonderful people. How dare we say, oh, you can do anything except change your diet in a way that will
Amen.
weight loss.
Yeah.
Like it's just like no, if you are fat and you don't want to be fat, you can change your body in any way that you want to.